All right, here we go. Good evening, everybody. Ooh, that is some very serious light problems through this open curtain. Let me see if I can't fix the lighting. How are we doing, everybody, tonight? Welcome. Welcome. My lamp is unplugged. I have to plug that in right now. Ugh. Got a weird setup tonight. I'm in a new location. You stayed in tune for the Louisiana ingression. You would be familiar with what's going on with me. So we're in some new digs, new studio, new great view of a pool. However, oh man, fix this lighting some more. Oh no, we lost a viewer because of my lighting setup. Ugh. Let's see. Does that work? How we doing? All right, we'll probably let some other people come on in to the live stream. I might just leave the thing open. Weird lighting be darned. Oh, that's better. There we go. It'll get dark in a minute anyway. Let some other people roll into the chat. See if I can't fix my camera too, because that is not the right camera I meant to use. Man, we're really clearly I'm very rusty right now. Let's see. Edit mic settings. Meant to change my video settings. And hey, there we go. That's what I was looking for. I knew something was off. This is way better. Way better look. Looks really good today. Never looks this clear. So I will, as always, look off camera. The lighting's going to do some weird stuff. The sun's hitting the pool and the screen really weird. So yeah, I've got boxes in the back, things in transit and in moving. So that's super cool. Tonight is a chill stream, Q&A. Technically maybe a follow-up to Neil's live stream last Saturday night, in which I got to hang out with him, which was like the best thing ever. I really enjoyed seeing him in person. Neil is way cooler in person than online. But it's only because you get to see more of him. It's really neat. I really enjoyed that. Let's see what else is going on. We're going to talk about Lego Batman Legacy of the Dark Knight tonight. I was going to ramble about that game this evening. Should be fun. It's very clear I've gotten sun with my new job in the last while. So that's cool. Oh boy, here we go. Hello, Matt C. VNA putting baby to bed, so no time, but glad to see you smiling. Glad to see you in the chat here, Risen. Very nice. Very nice to see you. I'll post the link if anybody wishes to join. I will probably start by rambling about Lego Batman. So if you want to show up for that and participate in that conversation, we can, or you can, you're welcome to. Invite guest, copy the link. Boom. So we'll start there. And then if anybody has any actual questions or wants to jump in and not talk about Lego Batman Legacy of the Dark Knight, they're more than welcome to. All right. Any further ado, we're just going to keep going. If more people show up to the stream, more people to show up to the stream, 4 people viewing, great with me. You guys are virtually not alone on a Friday night. It is Juneteenth, a federally recognized holiday. And as a public school teacher, I never got to take advantage of this day. Now I do, as I'm a different kind of government employee. But now I don't have a summer. So there's a trade-off. Anyway. All right, let's talk about Lego Batman Legacy of the Dark Knight. I received this as a review copy for Brick Nerd, the Lego blog site that I write for, and I enjoyed it. I beat the story in probably about a week and a half, 2 weeks-ish. It's fun. I really enjoyed it. I've got some screenshots from the game. The Lego Group has held the DC/Batman license for on and off for 20 years. This marks the 20th anniversary of the license being held by the Lego Group. Not that it's been consistent. Ran from 2006 to 2008 initially, and then the Lego Group no longer held the license for about 4 years, and then the theme returned in 2012 with Lego DC Superheroes, and that has technically been a consistent theme with the Lego Group for that long. There's been 4 Lego Batman video games. There's been numerous Lego Batman direct-to-video things, and of course we have the Lego Batman movie, which is theatrically released. And so there's been a lot of work with Batman and the Lego Group for a long time, and it's been really fun to track the evolution of that character as adapted by writers and people brought in for the Lego Group or for Traveler's Tales, who does these video games. Lego Batman Legacy of the Dark Knight is definitely the definitive Lego Batman video game. I cannot say it's the definitive Batman game only because I still prefer the Arkham games for their combat and for some of those experiences. I've really enjoyed watching it though. Let me see if I can't pull up some screenshots that I've taken from the game just to show you guys how cool things are. I don't have a lot, but let's see. Ooh, want that gone. Why can't I? Well, I just lost my screen, but here's a screenshot from the Batcave. This is the Robert Pattinson, like the Batman Batmobile in brick form with like my favorite bat suit. Can I say that's my favorite bat suit? One of my favorite bat suits in minifigure form. This is the 0-year suit, which was designed by Greg Capullo when he was the main artist on Batman in the New 52 era of DC Comics. My favorite suit. It is a reimagining of the original 1939 Detective Comics number 27 Batman costume, made for the modern age. Ah, man, I would give the Lego Group lots of money, and by lots of money, I mean I would buy the $5 minifigure pack it was in, or the $30 Lego set that it was put in. $40, I'll pay 40 just to have this figure. There's so many cool suits in this game, and there are lots of really great homages and references to not only the theatrical canon of Batman, of course. That's really where the majority of the story is being derived from and adapted, is the most of those films. But there's a lot of really cool comic stuff too. One of the chief ones actually being the 0-year storyline from the comics that I used to read, that I remember coming out at the time, with the Red Hood gang and the early origins of the Joker. One of the things that sticks out about Lego Batman Legacy of the Dark Knight too is the legacy that it has, and kind of effortlessly blends a lot of these different films, stories, and narratives into one story for this one particular one particular Batman. Um, some of the adaptations of certain villains and characters and conflicts are more clear cut. The Two-Face introduction is just the Two-Face introduction for Batman Forever. But what's really interesting is Danny DeVito's Penguin is like the Penguin for this, and you see him kind of evolve and change in the early stuff from kind of what they're trying to do, the Colin Farrell like Pattinson Batman Penguin into the Batman Returns Penguin. There's really cool stuff, and I'm very impressed by how well all these things are blended from different places. You're getting Batman Forever, you're getting Batman and Robin, you're getting Batman 89, you're getting Batman 0-year, like I said, a comic adaptation. You're getting Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, and The Dark Knight Rises. You're getting The Batman, all blended in this one ongoing story. And I was really concerned based on the trailers that it was just going to be these weird kind of vignette pieces of like you're playing this game or this movie in like some levels, and you're gonna play this movie in this levels. No, I was completely surprised that it was this as distinct and unique as it could be narrative. I was super excited too, and I'll pull up my next photo to see that what I've been looking for that Arkham Knight failed to do, or any of the Arkham games failed to do, was give me the ability to free roam and play around with Batman and Robin. This is so cool. So this was the new 52 Robin costume I put on Robin at the time, and this is the new Matt Fraction Batsuit for these characters. I think my favorite time playing the game, the story mode, was the introduction of Robin. It was so cool. It's very sweet. It was very much loosely adapting Batman Forever, and then in turn, like part of Batman and Forever, or Batman Forever. Both of them. Strike that, reverse it. And it was sweet. The Batman Robin relationship here is so obviously like father son coded. I really appreciated that, and the dynamic and the little banter between the characters as you're playing throughout the map and the story mode is really cool. Really awesome stuff. See if I can find another screenshot of those two to show you guys. I have one. Ah, here we go. This is fun. One of the fun things about free roaming in the game is you can play as piloting either Batman or whoever ally you have with him, and so but they always have to ride shotgun in the other person's vehicle. So this is fun. Every time Batman hops on like a motorbike, he's just sitting on the back seat of it. So there we go. It's just neat. It's some fun little goofy little touches. And so I don't know what more you would want from something like this. I haven't unlocked it, but like the 60s bat bike with the sidecar is a vehicle option, and I haven't beaten all the time challenge stuff yet to do that. Yeah, it's fun. I'm gonna pull up another a screen grab from that. Let's see. Oh, I'm filling up my tab of things in my stage. Let's see. Got another. Nightwing shows up in the game, and I'm so glad. Nightwing is Robin slash Nightwing, one of my favorite Batman characters, and he gets to show up and be prominent. Here's another motorcycle ride through here. Super. It was just fun. I really enjoyed playing this game. And in moving forward, now that I've beaten the story, one of the things I used to do in college was I would play something like Ghost of Tsushima in the background, kind of just as a thing to do tactilely while I was listening to podcast or doing another task. And it would be very easy to be able to catch up on things here in the corner or listen to a podcast or a sermon and complete little maps or missions and find tokens and trophies throughout Gotham City. Just in the background is something kind of to do. Good day. I'm looking at your videos. Profilicity stands out. Do you know Byung-Chul Han? I do not know Byung-Chul Han. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. Let me look up that right now. Yeah, we talk a lot about Profilicity here. I have a topic thing I'd like to workshop. It's not necessarily directly related to Profilicity per se. I could talk about kind of what I like to explore there, but I'll touch on it later. I was thinking about community and community as a means of real accountability, at least perhaps maybe in a church kind of fellowship setting. Let me finish looking this up. Okay. So Byung-Chul Han is a South Korean German philosopher. All right. I'll share my screen. Let's do that. Community needs authenticity. Profilicity gets in the way. Yes, profilicity does get in the way. I'm not pro profilicity per se. Here you go. Here's some info for y'all. I hope. Oops. Nope. It's not showing. Womp womp. There we go. There we go. It's pulled up now. Here, I'll pull up your comment down here again. Yeah. Well, let's talk about that. Find Han is right in this area. I'm gonna have to do that. Matt C says I'm kind of floored you play games in the background. I only play games in the background when it is kind of something like an exploration side quest mini task thing. So like I've done this forever. Why does it surprise you, Matt? Tell me, why does it surprise you? Normally I try to give my full attention to a game, and most games I play require that. But something like the side quest and like hunting for little fox shrines and Ghost of Tsushima do not require my attention. Anyway. All right, so we have a series of texts. Interesting. Catholic theologian culture. I have a rule. I have a rule self-imposed on myself that I cannot be buying any more books, but I would. Do you have any recommendations, Alom? Do you have any recommendations to check him out or a way that I can access things? I'm going to have to look more into this guy. All right. Disappearance of rituals, saving beauty, agony of arrows. Interesting. All right. I'm putting a pin on this one. I'm gonna have to look more into this. Thank you, Elom, for the recommendation. I find this very interesting. So you use Overdrive and Hoopla. Those are those means to read them online, I assume? BJ Honda's eager to get in the library. Okay, I do have a library card in my local library again. I will look for him next time I'm there. Matt C says, I don't know how to put something else in the foreground ahead of a game. Wouldn't the podcast be in the background of the game? I guess the podcast is in the background of the game. No, I guess. But the thing is, I would only say that the game is in the background only insofar as because the goal was I wanted to listen to the podcast. And so, but I don't just like sitting and just listening to it. I feel like I have to do something else per se, whether that's chores or whatever, which I'm gonna go to commercials for a minute. I have to put my clothes in the dryer. I forgot about that. I'm gonna do that in just a minute. Speaking of chores, um, but I suppose I only say that, yeah, the podcast is in the foreground only because that I go into the gaming session sometimes with the intention of wanting to listen to something. So I listen to a lot of Jordan Peterson, early wave Peterson podcasts and the Genesis lectures while I was playing Ghost of Tsushima. But I did it and the early randos too. But I did that only because I wanted to listen to those things and had time to kill. I can't imagine just sitting on the couch and just like staring at a wall or something while I was listening. So let's see. So I have 2 options for library apps, which is awesome. Thank you for the recommendation. I'm going to look into those as well. Check your digital library benefits. Look for audiobooks and ebooks since he's kind of academic. So most libraries. Yeah, I'm sure that's the trouble. So I imagine they're also printed with or in or according to whatever university or academic publishing house that he's a part of. Burnout Society and Technopolitics are a good start. All right. Okay. I'm going to go to commercials very, 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 very quickly because I do need to make sure that laundry is out of the wash, into the dryer, so I can deal with that later. I completely neglected to do that when I got back. We'll be right back, everybody. Hopefully I can just loop this thing. We're back. Welcome back. Here we go. Hello. We're good. Sound check's fine. We're back in business. Laundry has been done. I'm living with my parents again, and I don't want to leave. Don't want to leave that stuff in the dryer, especially since everybody shares it. Matsy says, okay, thank you. That makes sense. Was afraid this was an exclusive Zoomer thing. It is not an exclusive Zoomer thing. I'm glad I could clarify it and not sound like a goofball. Just found a new one. BJ Han non-things. Just downloading it now. Thanks for helping me find a new book. That's what we're here for. And yes, we are back again. All right, I was yapping about Lego Batman. No, I'm not going to talk about Lego Batman anymore. I'll find another picture, another cool screen grab, but we can talk about Pro Felicity. And one of the things that I think, especially in light of some of the corner discourse with regards to like dear friend Mr. Gavin Ortland and some of those debates, he showed up in the corner recently, right, on Livestream, and I think it's really cool. But I don't know how much mileage, I guess, if he chose to participate in something like here, he would get necessarily because of his Pro Felicity already in Christian YouTube, and insofar as kind of what he can and cannot do in participating in making stuff here, if he wanted to. I'm not saying like that would be the choice per se. Alome said there was a book I read about the Dark Knight, and they made similar cases about his persona. Persona insofar as connected to like Pro Felicity or connected to something else we're talking about. Just for clarification. Let me find another Lego Batman image while we're doing this. But yeah, the trouble with Pro Felicity, and I've touched on it with Ethan and in other spaces, how much you have a particular level of influence, but of course, but the concern with that is one, can you really see the fruit of your influence? How much can you actually engage as like a normal person per se? These are all things that hopefully are wards against perhaps the I want to become a YouTuber, social media influencer concern. I see my, as I was a teacher, a lot of my students wanted to do that stuff, and such things do not make for a particularly meaningful life necessarily on their own. Profilicity does not equate to meaning for yourself, maybe, but I'm just spitballing. Okay, yes, his profile within the profilicity. Yeah, that's interesting. Batman as a prolific figure, as high profile. Batman and Philosophy of the Dark Knight of the Soul, edited by Mark D. White and Robert Arp. I have a wide range. I appreciate this wide range. Welcome to my channel, where we have a very wide range of topics. Usually we start in this comic book pop culture thing, and then somebody will hop on and we'll be doing something else. So you're in the right spot. You're in the right spot. Welcome. Batman is a high profile, so that's interesting. If we want to talk about just the legacy or like the evolution of that character too, one of the things is Batman might technically always be high profile. Early Batman, if we want to use Morrison's language, he's a gritty, dark, urban commando. Used to read comics. ElfQuest. I've never read ElfQuest. I've seen it on shelves. Is ElfQuest worth picking up? I would give it a shot. Give some stuff a shot. Again, I'd have to find. I really need to stick to my don't buy any books rule. I have like 5-6 boxes of books right now that I cannot do anything with. So Batman is a high profile is perpetually that, perhaps, because you're either the urban legend, mythic creature of the early kind of Batman stories, right? In which you're like, oh, where is he? Is he coming in out of the shadows? Pattinson's Batman touches on that, right? I'm in every shadow. When they see that signal, it's a warning for me, right? Batman is everywhere in that way, whether or not he's directly influencing a situation, right? He's also disconnected from the common people. Bruce Wayne is also kind of in that way too. But I think at the same time, because Batman is a particular larger than life persona, even in like the role he embodies, like in the actual story, uh, he actually, I think, also can in some better ways maybe touch down and connect to the common people better than some actual high profile individual. Because he's Batman. I'm spitballing, but I hope you understand what I'm getting at with that. The ability to be so high profile and a mythic legend, and who is always directly interacting with the city and its inhabitants based on crime, etc., means that there are opportunities for connection in some way with him. But I guess in the same way as like an actual high profile individual, he's not the one necessarily that takes any particular meaning or community or connection from it. It's that the other people are influenced by his presence and being there. Spitballing. Let me clear out my studio of some of these images. I do want to send the link again if anybody so wishes to jump in as we're going. For those of you who are hopping in right now, we're talking about Lego Batman. We're talking about Profilicity. We're talking about regular Batman. We're talking about BJ Hahn, a philosopher with whom I've never met or heard of until now, which is super cool. So there's the link in the chat. I will make sure to pay attention to see who is in or out of the stage. While we do that, let me find another picture. What you saw before was a screen grab from the Lego, like the Arkham Knight or Arkham City, or no, City. There's too many Arkham games. There's a portion of the game, Legacy of the Dark Knight, that is just doing the opening to Arkham Asylum. And I think it might have been my favorite like single level ever. It was so cool to see a game series that I really enjoy recontextualized and adapted in Lego like this. It was really cool. I'm gonna see if I can find another screen grab from it. We have our first guest. Let me pull her up in just a minute. All right, so the book explores how Bruce Wayne died in Crime Alley with his parents. The billionaire playboy who stumbles out of limousines with supermodels is a carefully constructed tool. Yes, Bruce Wayne is a tool and means by which to allow for the true work and stuff to be done of Batman. I'm gonna put a pin in this. Hi.
Hello.
Welcome to the corner, Miss Blue-Eyed Blondie. What what are your thoughts on we're talking about Pro Felicity. What do you have to say about that? What do you want to talk about? Welcome to. I do a lot of letting our guests jump in at any given time.
Listen, I was listening in and I'm like, you know what? I honestly joined this unintentionally, but it's fun.
Did you accidentally hit the invite link?
No, I clicked it not knowing what it was.
Wow, so this is part of what we do. Y'all can take a guess as to who that was that came in and dropped into the chat. That was fun. I'm gonna drink some water. Uh-oh, says Matt C. Matt, how about you jump in? How about you talk about Batman and Pro Felicity? All right. So Batman is a social camouflage designed to protect the true entity. Yes, Bruce Wayne is the facade. I will say, I really like a Bruce Wayne and Batman that are not so disparate or separate from one another. Like a Batman and a Bruce Wayne who's made peace with the death of his parents insofar as he can, and is kind of like more zen and chill and able to just do the mission almost for its own sake is really cool. And then Bruce Wayne is also a means for proper change and restoration for the city. Um, I think there's a lot of merit in something like the animated series adaptation of Batman or Bruce Wayne, in which he's involved in his company. There's a lot of philanthropic work. I really think there's a lot of value in that. Yeah, I am pro philanthropic, just as interested in that as I am just kind of the general Playboy facade. Rather than viewing this as a standard psychological fracture or mental illness, the existentialist essays argue that this is an act of supreme existential will. Okay. This is all you, brother, after angel of the city that embodies the darkness so that the city could see light again. I'm spent. There we go. Thanks, Matt, for jumping in. I have a take on a Zoomer, millennial Zoomer take on like the Bruce Wayne Playboy persona. I think I've talked about it here on the channel. Otherwise, I'll bring it up. If we don't want to do that, I've thought about, and I think Pattinson's Batman kind of lends itself to this idea of this millennial Zoomer loner guy who spends his days playing video games and listens to like 3 music artists and buys cars all the time. So if I were going to write like a alternate Batman story, it would not be Bruce Wayne hanging out with, supermodel so and so and so. It's like Bruce Wayne is hanging out at another car auction and bought another really fancy, expensive car. And when asked about why he looked so tired, it's because he said he like stayed up playing like video games all night. Wear the sunglasses and the glasses all day in the morning, as like the guys. He could wear cool like Batman Google lenses, but they just look like blue light glasses because he's been staring at a screen all night. You can get little like Batman drones or robots to AI to look like Bruce Wayne is gaming all night. You can have his internet persona. That might be interesting. Just following up further on that idea of like the Playboy persona, like social media influencer gamer guy Bruce Wayne. There's no way that he's the Batman. That might be even better cover in the modern day than rich orphan Playboy. A Batman for the 21st century, if you will. A Batman for the 21st century, if you will. So that might be something to explore. So I don't know. I think that'd be neat. Alum says Batman and Green Arrow were my bag. Green Arrow is cool. I've not read much Green Arrow. I did not. What did you think of Arrow as like a show? I did not like Arrow as a show, but I didn't really like any of the CW television shows. This discussion begs for myth and archetype as narrative theory. thoughts. I got to remind myself of what narrative theory specifically is. I am a pseudo intellectual academic. I like to talk about all these things, but I've read so widely that I'm spread like butter. Too like little butter on toast. What is that the Bilbo Baggins says? Don't give Hassan Piker ideas. Hassan Piker does not need to become. He wouldn't be a very good Batman. Be a good Batman. Had to deal with something. That's okay. You can jump back in later if you want. Let's see. I wanna make sure I know what narrative theory is before I yap this of how stories are constructed, the shape of. Oh yeah, okay. Duh. All right, so I live my life in some respects on like narrative theory, and I think there's a lot of value. I mean, the myth and narrative is how we structure our world narratives. Oh yeah, yeah, I got it. I appreciate the clarification too. Yeah, I try and view the world almost from narrative theory. Other people might describe it as like there's patterns to reality, etc. But yeah, if everything is kind of found directly or indirectly tied to an archetype or a particular mode of in story, like I think there's a lot of value in that because then it's not predictive about the direction of your life, but um it does a lot perhaps to help guide and influence our decisions. So one of the language that I like to use a lot that others have and when it's discussed like is like the grail, like what is your grail quest, what is that which you pursued, or what is the greatest thing, the highest thing that requires the greatest cost that you desire, right? And looking at something through the lens of like what a grail quest is, I think does a lot for better having a better perspective on the weight, the responsibility, the significance of certain choices or efforts that are made in life. That's just like one example. um I think that's also like we naturally gravitate to particular characters, and that is telling because we ourselves also, or maybe the characters embody the attributes and the traits that we ourselves have. And sometimes these characters are aspirational and we strive to adhere to them. Or sometimes, I guess, if you have enough self awareness and think too much like I do, they become warnings and stuff. There are characters that I read and think about that I really like and resonate with that are not things to aspire to, but to be take caution in, or they are precautions against a particular way of being or existing. Like Anakin Skywalker, for example, in his when he talks about, right, when we look at like desire and a want to save those or to keep those he loves, right? He has a as Lewis in like the Four Loves would say, he would have disordered loves for individuals, for example, right? Anakin Skywalker has disordered love for his mother, a disordered love for Padme, right? And these disordered loves, they're ordered incorrectly, um, have a huge role and influence everything he does, which ultimately leads him to become Darth Vader, right? And so I see myself, to get too personal, I see a lot of uh, Anakin Skywalker's conflict as something that I find very relatable and identifiable with, for better and for worse, right? And so to be aware of that, excuse me, and to see what can be learned and what to maybe get away from or embrace in turn, um, is really important. The characters should be the audience. McLuhan applied poorly. Sure, right. No, yeah, I think so, and that's why those like window into this world characters are really important. It's really, if you're like me, you just like the main character, main hero all the time because they are the ones that we are probably most likely to embody those heroes in the faces, masks, and a goal to authenticity, not more. Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, because it's not, oh, I'm so, it's not, you're not LARPing the character online. It's that you are aware of these universal traits that exist. And because of the knowledge of these universal traits that you are embodying, found in these particular characters, you should be able to grow and change and evolve. Hi, Neil. Welcome to the chat. We're hanging out. We're talking about archetypes right now, specifically, I guess, Anakin Skywalker. We're talking about narrative theory and embodying or taking and being aware of the myths that we really like. Anakin as a child with traumatic experience. Yes. Okay. So I had a thing. The internet in the early 2000s really didn't understand the prequel trilogy. I was very young when those movies came out, and then got onto the internet at the height of like weird Gen X guys like Red Letter Media complaining about the Star Wars prequels without any real like they're not literate. They don't know what they're talking about. Because I had an experience rewatching the prequels recently with all of this stuff, and one of the early arguments was like, "Oh wow, why is Anakin doing this? He's doing all these things," and they are not actually tracking just how much this young kid has endured. Like Anakin, if we're looking at like the actual age of the character, is 9 in the Phantom Menace. You jump ahead maybe 10 years at most, he's 19. And yeah, a 19-year-old who's like a war general, soldier, monk guy, and he's not allowed to like express and have like these, affections and desires for, this princess queen that he's had the hots for since he was 9. Like that'll mess up a 19-year-old. You will kill Tusken Raiders in the desert, not just the men, but the women and the children too. Uh, about that, I think that you know Lucas knew what he was doing. They talk about Obi-Wan has PTSD, but forget other characters could be dealing with trauma. Anakin is probably dealing with more trauma than Obi-Wan. He's got an unstable home. He has his mother, but they're like at the threat of this weird junk dealer guy Watto who's going to blow them up if they like do anything wrong. He's like, "Oh, you're gonna blow up, little Annie. You got to work for me, right?" And then he's whisked away, right, by Qui-Gon in this call to adventure without any promise or hope of his returning to his mother. Like that's a lot. That's a lot. Found much of the hate about the prequels were a sign of age, like music. Yeah. Not as much as the originals, but quite still. I mean, I still probably generally prefer the original trilogy, but if I'm gonna pick like a favorite Star Wars character, Anakin is my favorite Star Wars character, like every day, and that's Anakin across all those films, but especially within the prequels. So I was okay with them, except that weird guy/creature. It's kind of crazy that Red Letter Media killed the career of the only billionaire indie filmmaker who was working without Hollywood bosses, just making American sci-fi fantasy for the vibes. Yeah. Oh man. There's like there's very little that I find more cathartic in this weird kind of way than looking at all these like video essayists on YouTube go back and defend every decision Lucas has made. Not defend every decision Lucas made, but like almost apologize for Lucas and defend him, and then in turn absolutely tear what like 10, 15 years of bad online internet criticism to shreds about his films. Nothing more cathartic than that, Matt C. Nothing more cathartic than that. I'm something of a Lucasian scholar. I would like to be. I would like to. I don't have many like. What is it? When you're a kid, you have a bunch of these like celebrity role models or whatever. I don't have a lot. I don't have people that I'm like, oh yeah, they're great. I love this guy. Like George Lucas is one of the few guys where I'm like since I was a kid, it was like he's cooking. Lucasian stealing that. Oh yeah, I use that one. I use that one a lot. Idols, that's the word. I don't have many idols, like real world idols per se. I always liked Batman better than celebrities and pop stars and stuff. Batman was my idol. When Lucas re-edited his stuff, I lost some respect. I can see that. I think I kind of am in favor of his auteur theory. It's my work. This is how we preserve it. I'm an artist. I'm going to work and change and continue on my projects and stuff, especially knowing like the history of how other filmmakers who are far more particular than him have done numerous cuts and recuts and changed what is and is not accessed of like versions of cuts of the film. Like who is it? Kubrick. Kubrick does a lot of that. Some other directors do that. Coppola's done that. And yet there's no buzz and hate about the changes that are not irrevocable but influence kind of later releases of those films with them. But if you chose to delete the films forever, I mean, I think technically by all rights he can. He's the artist of it, you know. Would that suck? Sure. Actually, at this point, I think at this point, just get rid of all the Star Wars. Get rid of it all. Get rid of it all. No more Star Wars. Throw it all away. Delete it all. Should we support his project? Support the deletion of Star Wars? We don't have to support it, but it's his work, and and by rights and by his vision and stuff, and like that's his thing. That's his work. Yeah, recent history aside. Okay, recent history aside, yes, keep Star Wars. Don't get rid of Star Wars. But I wonder what life would be like if we just stopped with like 1977's like Star Wars. I think he secretly deleted it when he sold it to Disney. Yeah, right. Yeah, we kind of eradicated any integrity of that brand and value as a pop culture icon. And for the last like 11 years, Force Awakens came out in 2015. It's been that long since, well, technically even longer since the actual like purchase of Lucasfilm by Disney. But like it's the franchise is worthless now. Like what Star Wars stuff do I even have unpacked that I got nothing. I got nothing. Got the rights to Flash Gordon there. I believe that. I think that he did want to do Flash Gordon initially, and it would be a very different world if we just got Lucas's Flash Gordon. Would that actually pop off? I don't know. I don't know. So no, I like George Lucas. I appreciate his filmmaking. I think he does a lot of really good stuff with visual callbacks to films and to what he's done before or will do. Um, and I've done a little bit of looking into, and some of these other video essayists do it too. Like he's very literate. He knows a lot of film history and dialogue and stuff that he will reflect or repurpose for other scenes and stuff. There's some really neat things, and you see that in some of his like the movie posters too. Like he's doing homages subtly. Like we'll pull it up. Empire Strikes Back. The main theatrical poster is very much aping and reflecting the Gone with the Wind poster. And I guess, don't quote me on, I guess there's some dialogue from that novel that is adapted for Han and Leia in that film. And so it's very much like the Scarlet and the Red something. I haven't seen Gone with the Wind in forever. Gone with the Wind poster. I'm just going to be lazy and not queue up just downloaded images this time. I'm just going to share my screen. And all right, so this is like the Gone with the Wind poster, right? And we got Empire Strikes Back poster. We're doing it. We're doing the thing. See it? We're doing it. We're doing it. We're homaging. Lucas wants you to oh dang it, I didn't pull up the screen again. Give me a minute. Do that now. You would think. Yeah, I know, man. I'm not sharing the screen. I'm doing it now. You would think that I would know how to do this at this point. Oh, God. All right, here we go. There's the Empire Strikes Back poster. Notice the framing of Han and Leia specifically here. This one specifically. This is the theatrical poster. And then we have Gone with the poster. We have the same framing. You know, the same frame. Look, we even have this guy on a horse and Luke's on his tauntaun. We're doing the exact same thing. Not exact same thing. We're referencing it. We're homaging it. It's really cool. Right. And so then Lucas would then say what what are we to think then of Han and Leia's relationship, and what are we to think of those dynamics between the two of them? And so, when somebody says like Star Wars is just like samurais and cowboys in space, I'm like, yeah, but it's kind of a lot of things recontextualized and repurposed. I have a childhood memory of seeing a TV ad for Revenge of the Jedi. Still not sure if I saw it. I mean, I think you probably would have. Revenge of the Jedi. I think that change was not last minute, but it was pretty far down the line. There was merchandise and posters and some stuff produced with that title pending. So perhaps you had seen one. Well, that explains the Han Leia kiss copied from an Empire scene. So the scene was referencing the Wind poster. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Northrop Frye says that everything is laid down on what came before, that there is no new idea. Like silt in a river. Yes. Or if we want to use Solomon, right, there's nothing new under the sun. Right? All has already been invented, all has already existed in some way, shape, or form. And so then it's up to the creatives and it's up to those with an eye for such things to be able to truly recontextualize and repurpose those things to bring about new truth and beauty. If we want to use some humanities school language that I adopted from my old roommate, it's their truth and beauty in that which is, presented. And that's also why we don't like such subversive works all the time, or people might find that off-putting. Yes, it is. It is Ecclesiastes. Solomon then also brings up the idea that there is nothing new under the sun, and that all things are hevel, right? Vanity of vanity. So yeah, so like bad criticisms of works that are like, this is just plagiarizing this thing because it's like this but different. And you're like, yeah, everything's like this but different. So one of Hemingway's titles, Vanity of Vanity. I am not literate. I wish I was. I wish I was more well read than I am. Subversive of subversive. Everything is subversive. Yes. Yes, we do not like, I think, as people, to subvert the narrative. We don't like when our archetypes that we embody to be distorted without some sort of return to form or resolution afterwards. There is merit in some kind of perhaps deconstruction or subversion at times, but ultimately you cannot leave the archetype and that which we try to embody undone, because that's tragic. This is creativity. Distort your view minus change perspective to the kids. Yeah. Speaking of perspective for kids, one of the things I really admire about George Lucas specifically, and he brings it up in the Star Wars archives by Paul Duncan, which check those out if you haven't seen those. He did one for the prequels and for the original trilogy. I only have the original trilogy one, but I want the prequel one too. It's almost just this ongoing dialogue about the production of those films with Lucas and a couple other people. That is creativity. Distort your view. Not change. Yeah. Okay. One of the things that Lucas did with American Graffiti and then later with Star Wars was creating something that was archetypal or hopeful, inspirational for children. And he had a heart for kids and for what they were going through. Because even like filmmaking in the 70s, from what I understand, was pretty bleak. I don't know if there were really any works for them at the time. And so American Graffiti changed a lot of kids' lives or were influential. And then Star Wars in turn had some of the same, like Lucas had the same agenda, right, with that as something worthwhile for the next generation. Chad versus Henry, my favorite Star Wars battle. Welcome aboard, Luke. It's good to see you. If you want to jump in, you're welcome to. For Star Wars, we had Forgotten Planet. I don't know what Forgotten Planet is. I'm going to post the invite link to the chat again if anybody wants to jump in and contribute to the conversation on screen. Of course, y'all are welcome to continue to interact down here in the chat. I do enjoy that. Bleak or rare? Tomato, tomato. Yeah. So yeah, that was another reason why I liked Lucas, or like Lucas so much. I get the impression too from reading some of the biography I have of Lucas and what he discusses, like he really, I mean, he was like, as Matt C. already described, he was like the indie filmmaker. And so like to, again, to quash that, but also like he was doing it for the love of the game, if you want to say that. He loved editing and working with film, like as a true artist and as somebody who likes to think he's pretentious and cool and a true artist. I really a lot of respect for him. Neil, enjoy Adoration. Go enjoy doing that. That's pretty cool. I got to live some of Neil's life, and that was pretty cool the other day. Nolan and others are great directors, but they are independent, evident. Yeah, have I ranted about Christopher Nolan before? And it's not really a criticism against his work per se. Yeah, Nolan does not own his work. George Lucas does. George Lucas, okay, did. George Lucas did, which is why he was allowed to change Star Wars. Leslie Nielsen in Forgotten. What? I'm gonna put a bit of that one. So my trouble with Christopher Nolan is he feels kind of one note in my brain. He's also a pretentious like guy, like really pretentious. I've read stuff. He's like, oh, you've got to watch my films in IMAX. You're not experiencing my movie as I intended it if you don't go to a real IMAX theater. Like, bro, get out. There are not nearly enough real IMAX theaters for the general pop. Like, those are the most pretentious. Like, let's just be inaccessible and obnoxious, like to do that because you think you're hot stuff. Like that bothers me so much. Versus George Lucas, who was like, yeah, I'm gonna make this movie for kids. We're gonna put it out where we can put it out. Like, I'm gonna own this movie. I want to do what I want to do. I don't know. I don't like Christopher Nolan's work. Not really. Like I like The Dark Knight, I guess. Christopher Nolan, all of his films feel very white collar, upper class, upper crust kind of too. Like from what like Inception feels very white collar. I think a Tenet, everybody's wearing nice suits. Everybody's very well to do and looks very nice. Like The Dark Knight Rises is seemingly about a class warfare within Gotham City, but it's really just one billionaire against this shadow army, and we kind of maybe see the general population, but it all still looks too clean and polished for there to be really an exploration of some of the class struggle that and ideas of revolution that Nolan is kind of paying lip service to. That's another criticism I have of Dark Knight Rises specifically. But I don't particularly care for Christopher Nolan. There you go. There's my Chris Nolan take. Robbie the Robots. All right. Now I have to look up Forgotten Planet. We're on the Forgotten Planet aside now. While I do that, there's the link. It's in the chat. Go find it. Forgotten Planet movie. Am I looking at the right thing, or is it Forbidden Planet? Wait. Where'd it go in the chat? It's forgotten. Forbidden Planet. This is very pulpy looking. There we go. Here, I'll share my screen. I am Nolan's supposed audience. I love intellectual movies, but I do not get the love either. Yeah, I think it's just that I think that Nolan is working for a very particular type of person, particular type of audience. But again, I don't think that when he wants to talk about things that involve people beyond his target audience, I don't think it doesn't work very well. Like The Dark Knight is entertaining, but I don't think is a very effective in talking about Nolan's Batman is not Batman. Yeah, reading the chat. It's all we have. Nolan is all we have. What are you gonna watch? Spielberg? I've not watched a Spielberg movie in a hot minute. Let me pull up the Forbidden Planet stuff while we debate about movie directors. I should not be having this conversation. I don't know enough about movies to talk about movies. Okay, before I open the thing, let me make sure. There we go. Forbidden Planet. Check this out. Forbidden Planet, starring Walter Pidgeon, Anne Francis, and Leslie Nielsen. Amazing. Look at that. Look at that. Is this in the public domain yet? Can we just watch this on my YouTube channel and not get yelled at? Look at that. That's so cool. Oh, here we go. Look at this. Okay. I've seen clips of Forbidden Planet in discussion about George Lucas. To tie that one back. My buddies say I only watch black and white movies. I have a list of movies I'd like to go through and watch, but I just struggle to sit down and watch a movie by myself. Like, movies and watching TV and stuff feels very communal to me. Like, I want to enjoy and experience this with somebody else. Perhaps because of it's a visual kind of mode, because you're sitting on a couch and you want somebody on the couch next to you. I don't know, because you want to share snack. Like, there's something. That's what we do at a theater, right? We've built movie theaters for shared screening viewing and stuff. Like, they're not separate little private viewing boxes. Um, and so I don't know. I there are other things that I will do and would rather do than view a film on my own. Like, I like to have a movie watching buddy person, or in TV shows. That's the same thing too. Especially if there's not participation later in a dialogue and discussion with other people about it. Ooh, we may have something to talk about. Yeah, let's stick around on that, because I could talk about this and then I could transition into, excuse me, conversation on community and authenticity, and kind of what I'm workshopping an idea on that needs further kind of thoughts. But yeah, Charlie Chaplin said talkies would not allow us to be the authors of the myth as we watch. All right, that's pretty good. I like that. I'd have to unpack that. Like it's late. I don't have enough brain power to unpack that. I like that though. The authors of the myth as we watched. Yeah, because how much does the audience actually dictate then and determine interpretation and stuff? And you lose the ability to collectively interpret and work with others and finding the meaning of a film if you're watching something by yourself, right? When the viewing experience becomes insular, the shared insight, the shared themes, the shared wisdom, the shared knowledge is lacking, is non-existent. Werner Herzog says we do not have adequate images. Okay. Yeah. So what specifically, but like what is not adequate about the image that we have is that it does not properly capture the myth that we have? Yeah, jump in, jump in. Ash this out. You're welcome to. You don't have to show your face necessarily. All right. Hello, hello, welcome.
Sorry, I had to mute the. I just clicked on the link and forgot that if you leave the YouTube on, it'll. Hey guys, yeah, no, that's the thing that I'm obsessed with right now. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine. Welcome aboard.
I'm not. Yeah, I'm on the wrong audio too. You can't hear yourself though, can you?
No, you shouldn't be able to hear yourself. Not
No,
in this.
I mean you can't hear you. I just have to. You weren't playing through.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Am I
all set?
all right? You got it. Awesome. Welcome. Here we go. So,
Well, yeah,
take
the thing I
over.
was going to mention. No, not take over. It's just you were thinking that this stuff doesn't relate, but I think it all connects together by that final little thing that you mentioned. Because I'll give you a link if you're interested. There's a YouTuber, and this is why I think it goes full circle. Because a YouTuber, I think, found this and made the connection. He made it in. It's can't remember the name of the YouTube channel, but it's a video about when two different directors make the same film. I don't know if you've seen it. It's about you know those volcanologists that the husband and wife, and they were murdered. They were not murdered. Oh, I'm sorry. They were killed by an eruption.
Okay.
Yeah, they became really famous. They became iconic because they dressed kind of like Jacques Cousteau. They were kind of cool. Became hip because they were filming themselves doing kind of some weird stuff. But long story short, 2 films were made of them. One kind of idolized them, right? Really made them iconoclasts. Is that the right term? You get what I mean? Like they really
Yes.
looked at what they look like and their persona, not what they really were as people.
Yeah.
And the other film was much more real. And I believe the other film, but neither here nor there. My favorite was someone compared those 2 films, and in it, by accident, he was talking about this idea of adequate images that I mentioned. Werner Herzog's obsessed about it. And what he used was, he said by accident, there was this grizzly guy who used to study grizzlies. I don't know if you've heard of him. He was murdered as well by grizzlies. Yeah, him and his wife were out camping one day, and they were eaten by a bear. But he was filming his interactions, and Werner Herzog argued, and this is what connects back to Charlie Chaplin. So Charlie Chaplin lived through both the silent era and the talkie era. I don't know if you're familiar. He was, yeah. And he warned that when we went from the silent films to the talkies, that we would no longer be authors, right? We would just passively accept media.
Yeah.
And Werner Herzog agrees, and he's arguing that we need to find something that speaks to us, and that's what he means by adequate images. And in his documentary talking about this, Werner Herzog argued that he felt that when the filmmaker left in empty frames, like when the filmmaker stepped out of the frame and there was nothing but, you know, branches waving, and I love it. And he realized that, Werner Herzog realized, that's when we experience the adequate images today, right? Because all of a sudden we have to go, well, wait a minute, we got to give meaning to this because there's nothing there for us to blindly accept. So that's what I was getting at.
Yeah. Okay. So that's that auteur idea, that kind of guerrilla filmmaking.
See how it all mixes together.
Yes. You're splicing together disparate images, and in turn, the meaning is not inherent in the actual text by what is.
I think it never is.
Yeah.
That's where I think the postmoderns get it, and people might twist it. I argue that there isn't inherent meaning, obviously, or however you want to see it, but the reader's perception matters as much as the author's, not more, I guess. You get what I mean?
Sure. Yes, I know what you mean. Well, because it's that idea of like, oh, death to the author, but like the author needs to stay insofar as like they're the one that created the piece, but like the work can transcend and take on a different meaning for the individual, like, and it's inevitable if you're taking it incorrectly, which is then too maybe semi-related this way, right? Which is why the short form content through TikTok and shorts and stuff is so destructive, because it's merely presentation of just stuff. It's noise. It's a presentation of noise.
The argument, and here's my argument. There's just to give you in context, like this isn't just me coming up with out of the blue. So the leading researcher in reading argues that the reason why we're not engaging deeply with anything anymore is that we're doing a lot of reading, but we're not doing deep engagement with reading. You know what I mean? We're not getting, and like what Marshall McLuhan said, you get into a newspaper like you get into a warm bath. And we don't do that with online reading. When you're reading Substack, you're not getting into it. You know what I mean? You're usually distracted. And I think she's almost there. I believe that we could get deep engagement from an audiobook, a digital book, because I see that with James Joyce. So someone who tries to challenge James Joyce or conquer James Joyce, they struggle. But what I see, because I listen to it regularly, is there's dramatic readings of some of these works, especially the challenging ones. And the people that listen to the dramatic readings tend to understand it more. Do you get what I mean? Because I think it's more engaging. Do you see my connection there?
Yeah.
Or am I just mad?
No, you're not mad. I think I get it. I think I'm picking out what you're putting down.
Yeah. Pardon me. Just finished dinner.
Here, I'll give you the other kind of lens I'm looking at or thinking about. I was thinking about community
forgot. Yeah.
Pro-felicity technically, and accountability, or integrity might be a better word maybe to use broadly.
Okay.
And it's both in terms of, I guess it's multifaceted. I was thinking about this with like the church space. I don't know where you're at.
I think it's universal. I think we can talk about this and it can be applied if you think about it deeply. So you go ahead and talk about how you applied it. You know what I mean? You're
okay. Yeah. Awesome. So one of the things that a lot of like the evangelical non-denom church kind of vibe, or maybe Southern Baptist, the tradition I came from, strive for, and they're like men's ministries and groups, is some sort of accountability partners, or we got to be accountable to one another.
yes.
To be stronger men. And you're like, all right, great, cool. But how are we doing that? Well, you meet once a week and you kind of talk about what kind of things you did wrong, what you didn't do. Like I've got a really mean-spirited parody in the brain that I want to do about that. And it's a parody of a truck commercial, let's just say, with that kind of narration and the Ford pickup truck kind of thing. Anyway, it's always kind of frustrated me because a lot of the experiences I've had with these things, they've never taken up off the ground. Okay. And one of the things I think that's because of that is because these guys that are running it, they don't know how to make friends, and they don't know how to engage with one another, and they don't have a proper sense of community.
They're not really connecting.
Correct. Right? Conversely, I have a lot of really good friends who are all guys from that church and from that space, that because I know them, what I do, what I don't do, their influence on me is so pertinent in my day-to-day and the other relationships and interactions I have with me, that I could not or would not want to stray or stumble in a particular way, because I know that they know me so well and I know them so well.
And you let them speak into your life, right? So
yeah,
they matter.
And that's a natural evolution in leading to accountability versus the what's the word I want to use? Prescribed kind of call for it. And so one of the concerns and petitions is like, guys, just become friends first. Like this is how these things come about.
Hey, guys are weird though, eh? That's the tough part. We're so weird. Like you can't just be, I know women will like do, like, tell me if I'm wrong here, right? Some wives will do that and go, well, you should be friends. There's something weird about guys. Just because we're into the same thing doesn't mean we're going to be friends. But usually it has to be something like we have to help each other fix something or get in a fight. I had this discussion recently. Some of the deepest friendships start with like a disagreement. We're weird that way. I don't know if that's stepping on toes.
No, I think you're onto something. I wish I had C.S. Lewis's The Four Loves on me right now, because he talks about philia, or friendship.
Yes.
And he says that friends look at the same like if Eros is lovers looking face to face, friendship is friends looking side by side to the same destination and goal. And so much of at least male friendship is, I think, driven by a particular objective, whether that's something very tangible at times, or maybe something more intangible, like it is here kind of in the corner, and in finding and making meaning, etc. That's a goal. That's something, right, that is shared and achieved. But yeah, you can't force guys to be friends. I've figured that one out. I have that with shared interests too. There's some, like, I used to do Lego stuff a lot more than, a couple years ago, and I would do the convention scene. And oh man, despite having the shared interest, there are some of these guys where I'm like, I don't want to hang out with you. Like, you are not.
You just get the creeps right away. Is that what you mean?
Yes, or C.S. Lewis also says that not the worst kind of people, but the saddest kind of people are those who say they want friends and then cannot, like, don't know how to be friends or make friends, but are so in need of them.
That long ago, he predicted the position we'd be in, because I've heard 80% of people under 35 don't have a real life friend. So he predicted that long ago. That's crazy. See, we should be reading more of these guys. The Four Loves, you said, eh?
It's really good. It's one of my favorite books.
Might even be on my shelf, but it might be one of the ones that I haven't read yet. I'll check. That's awesome.
So that's my working. There's a lot more to it. It could be better explored, but I think at its baseline, friendship, community, etc., build integrity. If maybe that is a better word, because as Mark S. says, I don't want a friend who needs to keep me accountable. Accountability is a bad word. Awkward people aren't any phenomenon. That's true.
You know, I said this to somebody today, and at first they thought I was criticizing when they were stumbling to choose a word. I actually meant it the opposite way. I wish more people stumbled to choose the word, because I think when you consciously choose, or even better, this is a thing that we don't admit in translation. We usually, if we're going to translate a sentence, we usually will translate it 3 or 4 different ways, and we have to choose the one that fits best. But I
Yes.
wish we would talk about, like, oh, wait a minute, this is not the right word. So I'll actually pick 3 words. You get what I mean? And if you start
Yes.
discussing 3 different words, I think that actually doesn't confuse us. I think it helps you hone in on what you really mean. But people, I think, are nervous I think, because they think it makes it more confusing to talk about 3 or 4 different, or like, are you trying to sound smart because you know 3 different words from a thesaurus? It's like, no, it's right, because you run into it. People don't understand the definition of one word, or maybe they misunderstand the definition of one word, right? The shared resonance that I like to use the term, right? You're trying to find
Yes.
a shared resonance, this idea that, can we get to a place where we both understand what we mean, at least as close as we can get to, honestly, right?
I suppose I would vaguely use defining terms. Like that would be maybe the language that I've used before to describe that process with people, right? It's
I know.
the Peterson, like, what do you mean by
I
this?
know they hate it so much, but the example I use is, I was so looking forward to this, so I was disappointed. Vivek Ramaswamy, do you know him? And it's not political at all.
Mm-mm.
He was running for some office in America. The reason why I mentioned him is he's an admitted Hindu. I can't remember exactly which. I think he says he's a Vaishnavan, but don't quote me on this. But he is a Hindu, a devout Hindu, supposedly. And Jordan Peterson, and supposedly they were going to get together and talk about God. But
Yeah.
of course, I was hoping they'd do the Peterson thing, like, well, what do you mean by God? And, but they didn't. They just went right into it, and they were yammering away. But you can kind of tell that they were talking past each other, because they never sat down and went, okay, well, what do you mean? Right? It's because I think by that time he was kind of, people don't want to hear me yammer on for 10 minutes, right? Because I guarantee you they've looked at the data metrics and went, Mr. Peterson, when you go into this pedantic play with words, that's when you see a giant drop off in viewership. So you get what I mean? Right?
Yes.
I
That's my
think there's,
favorite part of Peterson, though, is like
me
his
too.
early figuring things
Yes.
out, monologuing on a stage as he's trying to talk about a chapter of Genesis, and he never actually talks about, like, that's my favorite stuff.
Oh my God, you're so, yeah. No, you're my spirit animal. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I
All
really
I do
wish.
on this thing, on this live stream, is just like beat around the bush, be like, what do I mean by this? What are we talking about?
And that's currently what I've been working on, is completely by accident. So for years, I've been using AI for a couple of years as an agent, but I've been using it in translation for a number of years. So I was kind of pre-programmed to treat AI not as, oh my gosh, scary, just as like a super powered tool. I used to call it a Hemingway editor with more steps. A joke about that. Hemingway editors, if you haven't seen it, it's awesome. If you're trying to learn how to write, what it does is it'll teach you how to write as simply as possible, so that even a grade 5 can understand your message. You know what I mean? Hemingway editor is awesome.
Yes.
So that's how I used to use AI. I would just use it for grammar and structure, and like, is this clear? Am I making sense? Yeah. But then,
do you ever edit your own message? I don't know if you have iPhone, but you can edit text messages. I'm constantly editing my messages as much as I can after I send it, for clarity's sake, because usually as soon as I've sent a message, there's a better way to clean it up.
yeah, see, Hemingway said you should be careful about the editing. No, see, I'm weird by the nature of the way I am. I don't bother to edit, so I actually have to warn people in advance. So actually, that's where AI came in. It actually helps. So it now recognizes my voice to text. I'm not much of a typer, so you'll have like what would you call it? Those preformed text responses that you can get.
Yes.
You'll either get that from me, or you'll get one long punctuation free diatribe, because it's voice to text.
It'll
That's
be
how I
either
communicate.
thanks for the response, or it'll be, wall of text. Yeah. Okay.
Wall of text. Yeah. That's normally the way I operate. But now, thanks to AI, I can copy and paste that, and I can say, can you make this make more sense to the average normie? But follow me here. This is what I've realized, that by accident, it is really completely by accident. The AI ends up helping you to have this mentor-mentee relationship by accident, because it either misunderstands what you meant somewhere, or it makes you recognize where you're not clear. You get what I
Yeah.
mean? So
That's
it's
interesting.
yeah, that's what I mean, right? So go ahead. You were saying about well, I digressed on what you were saying there, but yeah.
No, you're fine. No, I simply will edit my own language as much as I can for clarity if it comes to my mind after sending. I type really fast. I think like mile a minute, especially in writing and typing.
Yeah.
And so if I'm sending messages to people, I'll be like, well, I need to fix this grammar thing. I don't there's a want to be integrous even in my
Mm.
writing. But then it's also revisionist, I guess, because then I'm changing what I initially meant per se, perhaps.
No, and that's what I meant by this AI thing is like, so I'm a weirdo. When I was learning in school, most of my teachers, well, particularly my American lit teacher, she's like, "Oh no, I love your writing." She says, "She said you have a particular voice." What she meant is I write the way I speak, and I've
Yeah.
always done that. And I found out not too long ago that that is actually abnormal. Most people write differently from how they speak, and so I don't know if you've ever looked into that. And this is my whole shtick. I believe that we learn to read so that we can learn to think. We learn to think so we can learn to write. We learn to write so you get what I mean? It's like a recursive sort of idea because the way we write is a little bit different than how we speak. But here's the thing. We write because our brain is such a jumble. If you get what I mean? I think the brain is like one of the greatest pattern recognizing system in the world, but it is taking in so much data. It's tough. Like Ian McGilchrist, this idea that we're all obsessed with the left brain, we're all obsessed with the minutia, and we're not zoomed out enough to see the bigger picture. You get what I mean? So when they do the studies, and follow me here, what I mean by this. When they do the studies, they study kids that learn on a tablet, and they say they don't learn as well as kids that write on paper. But I believe we haven't tested. What about kids that use those modern tablets that allow you to write, like with digital e-ink? So my argument is when we used to create our own myth, when we used to read or listen, especially listen, as opposed to passively accept images off the screen, I believe we had to learn how to construct our world. You get what I mean? Down to the very basic level, how language works. And, I mean, this simple idea that because we have spent so many years, they call it the Google effect. And it's been coined this idea of multiple generations now, instead of memorizing something, they go, well, I can look that up on Google, so to heck with it. And they call it the Google effect because what it does is it atrophies the brain. You get what I mean? And so I'm arguing that we haven't applied those ideas to basic imagination. I think, and recently they just did a study on this and proved this weird theory correct. I believe the death of independent imagination was hidden because when I was young, when they tested your ability to move shapes in your mind, you didn't have any external examples to steal. Like, oh, you remember this movie or a video that I watched and they showed, we had to do it in our head. So when we were young, that was considered a talent of like an architect. It was rare. And recently we discovered that because kids had so much media to use as a template, they were able to hide the fact that they didn't have an actual active imagination. Do you get what I mean?
I've seen the lack of active imagination in my students.
And I didn't believe it. I don't know if you've heard of it, like the inner voice thing. I didn't believe it, that there was people that didn't have an inner voice. But I now have heard from enough people that they don't have an inner voice to I believe they're not lying. What do you think? If you're dealing with kids.
I think I probably do see the lack of an inner voice in some of those kids.
Is that maybe the imagination? I don't know. Maybe you hit on it. Maybe the inner voice is just our inner muse speaking to us. I don't know. I never thought of it that.
Sometimes the inner voice, if we want to use that, sometimes it's muse, it's imagination. I think sometimes it is just an ability to internally process that which is being presented at the time or in reflection or later. And it's only then
it's a requirement, yeah.
And it's only then through writing, through production of something that that which has been conceived as thought is now image, right?
Turned around
The
in
writing,
the head.
The writing now bears the image of that which was conceived in the mind.
I love. So yeah, I know you operate on your templates, all the fancy word templates for this stuff. Yeah, dead on.
So, and then, well, that's also, if we want to do like look at John 1, right? In
Yes,
the
please
beginning was the
do.
Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was with God. Like
Oh,
Christ
logo.
is
Yes, sir.
Christ is the image of God, right? He is an image bearer, and so that which we
An
perceive
archetype.
as
Yeah.
he is, yes, and that which we perceive or understand as God, character, thought, shape, description, disposition,
Yes.
um, is now made flesh and now is
Yes.
embodied in
I love
Christ.
that. People don't talk enough about that. I believe he was sent to embody how to walk this path, and so many people obfuscate the image as to somebody that nobody can follow. Yeah, I love that you bring that up. Right, this idea of an archetype we're meant. I know I'm going to really turn a lot of people off now with this idea of Nietzsche's Übermensch. People don't understand. That's what he meant. Übermensch. I don't translate it because the English doesn't really. It's this idea of it's not just an overman. It's really this idea of like in Chinese. There's this character that it's a hand grasping for the moon. It's like a moonshot goal. In the English idea, the technology, we use this term called a moonshot goal, right? So you set your goals way beyond what you think you can do. Because you're going to surprise yourself. Like if you say, oh, we're going to code this in 60 days and blah, blah, blah. It's going to take you 90 days, and it's a Parkinson's law thing. But long story short, I forget what I was going to say. I apologize.
We were talking about Übermensch.
Oh, yes. The Übermensch is not for something to ever achieve. Like technically, Nietzsche said that it's something that maybe your great-great-grandchildren might achieve, but that's being hopeful. If we could, no. It's this idea of setting a template. This is the idols that you talked about. I always say this, that when I was young, it was Clint Eastwood and Conan the Barbarian, that sort of idea. You're not Conan. You're not Clint Eastwood. And if you try to embody them, where you land, if you're authentic, it should be as close to who you truly are. You're not Clint Eastwood, but where you're standing should be closer to the best part. You get what I mean? And that's really what Nietzsche
like
meant.
that.
Yeah. Because you know what he said? He said, what is the ape to man, right? What does the ape look like to us? Some people go, oh, yeah, we're not even close. You get what I mean? But we're not that far apart in the sense, right? We're both, given almost the same gifts. And that's what he's getting at. Like, imagine what this better form of human being would see us, right? Anyways, I digress, but that's what, yeah.
There's a great, do you ever read All-Star Superman?
No.
There's a great moment. Okay, so it's written by Grant Morrison. It's a one-off story. It's 12 issues. Superman is dying. He technically gets cancer. He flies into the heart of the sun to rescue this experimental space project from destruction in the core. And so he only has a limited amount of time to live. And he is distraught because he's like, what does the world look like without Superman, without me? And he's fearful of it. And so he sits, there's a wonderful page. He's sweating, he's in pain, he's dying. He's sitting there in his chair in the Fortress of Solitude, and he's looking into the other worlds about what does a world without Superman look like? And we see our world, and you see the Greeks describe, right, the ideal man. You see this evolution.
No kidding.
And then you see Siegel and Schuster creating Superman, creating this unattainable ideal.
So awesome, man. The writing.
It's such a great page. Oh, hold on, it's right here on my shelf. Wait.
Yeah, because you got the art too, right? Yeah.
Hold on, I have it. Okay, so my limited library. It's so.
But see, we got to talk about that then. Maybe is like, what is the difference between the comics? Is it because it's so interactive, or why is it that it's so much more? You're the author of a comic versus watching like a comic book movie, or
some of it is just the nature of the sequential art.
It might be because I grew up reading them as well, and to me, I don't see them as different. A comic, a graphic novel, there's no difference because it's the story, right? I don't know. Yeah, that's awesome.
So he starts looking, and it's cut with some other stuff he's doing. But this page, if you could see, my camera's bad. We're Earth Q, and so we have certain major milestones in civilization and humanity that are going on, and we pan through history. And then he's doing some other great acts. He's finds a cure for cancer. Oh yeah, Nietzsche shows up. He shows up. He's looking into the world. The Earth Q. There he is. Not that my camera's very good, but he says, "Behold, right? I teach you the Superman."
Oh, I didn't. Oh my gosh. See, I didn't even think of that. And I'm sorry
then
if
he
anyone
shows up.
said anything in chat that I missed. I didn't even have.
And then in
I
Earth
didn't even realize.
Q, we cut to the creation of Superman in this other world. And
I
so
didn't even
Superman,
connect the two, the Superman and the Ubermensch. I'm sorry, I'm a
and so
dumbass. That's hilarious.
Superman can pass on, hopefully, without the fear, right, that the world will not be without him.
So explain, like, what was the revelation that he had that made him realize that he was allowed to go on?
I mean, it's like it's more meta. It's just that he's like, what will the world be like without Superman, and what does the world without Superman look like? And the answer is that Superman. Look at this.
Hi, Mom.
We're gonna play some branding.
Small worlds.
We're back.
My apologies. Yeah, poor Mom. We had to make fun of her. Sorry.
I didn't want to make fun of her. No, she's okay. She can barge in.
Yes. No,
I'm learning how to live with my family again. So that was fun. Yes. Shout out to my mom. She bought buy one get one Jimmy Dean pancake sausages on a stick because I eat those for breakfast for a quick breakfast before work. So
all kidding aside, the reason why so I argue that the reason why we're in the crisis we're in is because it's not one generation. It's as many as 3 generations. So your mom has that kind of passion for a BOGO. That's awesome. Right? Like, I love that. And I wish we had that kind of passion for things like education, reading, and the shit that the stuff you're talking about here, right? Pardon my language.
You're good. No, you're allowed to drop that stuff.
I'm terrible for that. I'm around in Discord too much, so it's making my language terrible.
All right, so and in the Superman line of thought, meta wise,
that is so beautiful.
Morrison,
I'm sorry I didn't see the connection. That's beautiful.
No, that's okay. Yeah. So, but meta wise, Morrison says that the world need not fear a world without Superman. Need not fear a world without him because man will create him. I'm going to pitch you my hippie Superman because of Matt C. Matt C says I need to do this. I need to sell you.
Oh, why? Because okay, so that's a separate thing that I didn't understand. Anything like that's meta in the corner, you're gonna have to tell me because I'm not really a part.
This isn't even quarters. This is just me.
Okay. Yeah, do tell, dude. I love crazy personal ideas.
Do you know the Dark Knight Returns, at least as a title that has been talked about?
It goes back to my day. Yes, sir. Dark Knight Returns, the original comic book came out when I was young. Yes, sir. Not the movie. Are you talking about the movie or the comic book?
No, I'm talking about the comic. I'm talking about Miller's work. Did you read it?
Yo, dude, I owned it. I told you that. I just recently gave away my Gotham by Gaslight to a family friend. Yeah.
Do you remember what it's in the 3rd book, so it's Dark Knight Triumphant.
I won't remember, but yeah, tell me. Yes.
Reagan basically triggers the conflict on Corto Maltese with the Russians and sends Superman off to stop them, and they launch an EMP nuke off into the US. And so Superman has to stop it, and he gets blown up by it. And he has to, it's this really pretty, I'll see if I can find the page. It's a really pretty page. There's this purple lightning. He's been sapped of his energy, but the monologue he goes on, he's like, he's making a cry and a plea to Mother Earth.
Okay. And this is
he's like, Mother, I hear your cry. Like, give me life and feed me and give me that which I need to continue to protect you. These humans, the mankind, they don't know what they do. They take from you. They've hurt your world. I hear the cries of the frogs that have been quenched in the sand. I see, the destruction of the flowers in the land, and he touches down, and all of the plants get dissolved, and he has life again because he gets his energy from the sun of the plants too.
Yep.
And Mother Gaia, patron Superman, has never been worked with before, and I want this pitch so bad. I think it is the coolest thing. I gotta find the dialogue if I can read it, but I think hippie Superman would be is something that's never been explored. We usually
Okay.
go like, American jingoist, like truth, justice, American way, soldier, like
Yeah.
fighting thing, but like a man who has the same kind of chemical processes per se for life and strength as like the earth itself and like its plant life, and to be inextricably tied to that, and we've never really worked with that before, I think is like wasted potential. And so environmentalist crusader Superman, kind of in the same way that early 40s Siegel Schuster Superman, like I'm just going to stop these robber barons and stuff was doing, but like for the environment, for the earth, is
I
so
get
cool.
you.
We've never done that. Like if I were in charge of some things, I were in charge of some things, I would have hippie Superman.
Would you?
I just even for like a story, like I would like if I could, I'd like write a story, and
I would. Yeah.
and it
I'd
would be
probably. I wonder though. So yeah, I think that would be super cool because I think there also is room for maybe something in between, right? Where there's a Superman who, you know what I mean, can balance it, the Nietzschean idea. You know what I mean? Like
here. I'm
one that.
gonna paste the image in somewhere. I don't know. It's a WVP file. Can I do
Because
that?
that's what I thought when you were talking about, like, you're right. You made me realize that most of the depictions of Superman is really jingoist. So yeah, you would, of course, right? The pendulum swings the opposite way. So you'd want to do like earth touching Superman, right? Earth touching pose.
Yes.
But I'm
Yes.
thinking something in between, like truly the superposition, one that understands both sides. Yeah. The Jungian.
I
Superman.
think there's so much, just in the tension of like when can I preserve, when do I preserve humanity? When is the
When
natural,
do I have to slap
like,
it
the earth?
down? Yeah, the meekness idea, right? Meek is the idea that it is a hand that can strike, but you stay it, right?
Yeah, I think I got the picture. Let me pull it up. I want to read this dialogue for you and just show you the page. It's so good.
Oh,
This was I had a recent read through of this book, and I was really impressed. This last time, the book kind of has this weird cultural kind of perception and revision kind of, and I think a misunderstanding of it.
mhm,
So here's the page. It's on screen. Try and
yeah.
read as we might. I don't think I can get it much better. So
Say
he's been
that.
struck by the lightning. It pierces through him from the nuke, and he says, I have always loved, he's speaking to the earth. He says, I have always loved you, though I was born a galaxy away. I've always served you. The same power, the sun's power, fuels us both. You hold it here, you store it. I beg you for a suffering world, release it. Mother, mother, lend me your strength, right? And then he takes the life from the, man, I don't do anything with this. Miller had something. And then he wrote Superman Year One probably 10 years ago and didn't do any of this because Miller is a very different man now than he was in 86. But the people who think that Superman is a chump baby like Zack Snyder from reading this book don't actually read. Like Batman versus Superman is a bad interpretation of this story. So yeah, the art is so raw. It's Miller. That book still doesn't look like any, like DC would never actually publish something like that, like ever. And like I can't believe they did. Like it feels very indie underground comics, kind of comics with an X.
Can I say something that, I mean, just something that just came to mind. So you want to talk about something that just came to mind here that it might offend, but remember when we talked about Lucas going back and messing with shit? So I'm not
Yes.
saying that he doesn't have the right to do that. What I'm saying is he should have come out with something different. So I'll give
Okay.
you an example. Like, look at Kingdom of Heaven, right? So say if someone liked the theatrical release, right? They like crappy stuff. Let them like crappy stuff and let them have their crappy stuff. But say if someone wants separately, see, you get what I mean? I don't want someone to choose for me. And I think here's the connection. So you should be able to do this, but I bet you what probably would stop you in your tracks is fear of copyright infringement and being sued. You should be able to do a story about Superman. You get what I mean? Remember we used to have fanfic.
I have some ideas of how I can do this.
Yeah, but you get what I mean. What I'm talking about here is like just to talk about the modern copyright. I think they've ruined everything is what I mean. Because I'll give you an example. I recommend The Little Prince for different reasons. It's similar to what we're talking about here, but I found out recently that you can't mess with anything nowadays. Yeah, I know. It kept me quiet for. You can't mess with anything nowadays because of copyright, right? Almost every country extends copyright to the point where most of the time the stuff is irrelevant by the time you can even mess with it. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes.
You get what I mean? Well, you see what I'm talking
I
about?
do. I know what you mean. So rather than well, I think Lucas did technically do that with the prequels. I think he did what he wanted to do, what he couldn't do in 77 with the prequels, in attempting to make as lifelike as he could the alien worlds he couldn't properly capture given his resources and budget at the time.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah. The example I give is Dogma for that. Do you guys, that example, Dogma, the movie, went dark for a long time, but
is that a Kevin Smith movie?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And
Okay.
Don't misunderstand. It's actually worth watching for different reasons. But what I'm talking about as an example of they re-released it, but they didn't mess with anything. They left it as corny the way it was done in the time. And that's what I'm getting at. You get what I mean? I love that Lucas wanted to do what he could, but here's the thing. There's this term in Japanese called wabi-sabi. Have you guys ever heard of this? Wabi-sabi?
I think I have.
Okay. It means that the uniqueness of things is in the imperfections. And and everyone talks about, it's not. It's even in German. Friedrich Nietzsche called it schätzen. It's a German word that means to evaluate. But it's deeper than that. When you understand what it means that we are the evaluators. So we're the ones that find the value in things. Do you get what I mean by that? Right? We are the ones that know, right? That recognize it. Like, look at art, right? Some people love art, some people don't. You can't take that away from them, right? So that's that personal recognition. You get what I mean?
Yeah. No, I get that. So when Lucas goes and removes and changes we no longer have the actual model pieces for the X-Wings on screen, but we've matched the pacing of the same shots with the CG interpretations, right? Something's lost there in translation and interpretation, I suppose, for the audience.
I would go so far as the imperfections of the original, what he couldn't do, the limitations made him more creative. And in so doing, this is how it relates to what we're talking about here. I think it forces us to be stronger as an auteur, like forces us to suspend our, you get what I mean? Because like,
yes,
God,
that's what Lucas did. He couldn't, what he did was he put his money right back into his projects and then into ILM and into the means by which he could do that, which he couldn't do before.
What do you mean?
Like everything that he did was in service of the next project. Until the internet told him to stop making movies.
I guess.
Like when he's doing the prequels, or when you get the special editions which come out before the prequels release, right? 97, 98. This is technology that he's using in redoing those changes, technically really in service of the prequels first, and simply in an attempt to fix that which he, as a perfectionist, didn't want not changed if he could do it. Like even the special editions were really working towards what he would do in the prequels just 2-3 years later.
Okay.
And so it's generative is not the right word for that, but it was in an effort for something new still, despite an alteration to what a lot of people would regard as like quintessential American film.
So it was an ad for what his studio could do for other films. Is that what you guys are getting at? It wasn't. That makes it worse.
Not really. In some way, no, because I think that the prequels still have a lot of value story wise, and I think Lucas would.
No, sorry. I thought you meant just the changes he went in and made. I'm not taking anything away from. Oh, you're saying the prequels themselves were also an ad for his.
Matt C says that. I would disagree with that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I don't know if I go that far because I don't know how true this is. He says that he did at the very beginning. He imagined them out, and this is what I'm getting at. This idea. I think some of the greatest films come from this intersection between what they want to do and what they have to do. Okay. So he wanted this great arc of a story, but he couldn't do that. So I believe that's what stuffs so much meaning, so much gravitas in those early films. Do you get what I mean? Like it's a Hemingway thing. I don't know if you know that saying that You can tell more about, and he says it about authors and writing, but I think it applies to almost everything, like life, not just media. He says you can tell more by what someone leaves off the page than what they put on the page. And that's what I'm getting at. It's this and I know it seems weird, but I believe that when he goes back and he messes with anything at all, except and I might be weird. I think you can put out like like clean up the video and stuff and add some deleted scenes to the end. But I don't think you should change. And the example I give is, I don't know if you know the lore that they had to give Skywalker a green saber in
Yes, because
yes.
the blue wouldn't show up on out in the desert.
Okay. What would happen if you, what do they call that? Retcon. If he were to go back and change it to blue because he can now.
That'd be annoying.
It would be. But then let's go deeper.
Because we have
on
a
that.
common myth now. Luke's lightsaber
Yeah.
is green. He's a Jedi. He has these greens. Like in my brain as a little kid, like
Yeah.
that's how you differentiate like Luke's evolution. Well, he has his dad's lightsaber and it's blue, but now he's his own man.
Yeah.
And his dad even acknowledges that already. He says, I see you've constructed your own lightsaber.
Yeah, yes.
Right. And
okay, you want to hear something that's crazy? Follow me. Let's go down this trip. So you want to talk about weird. So my wife got into Star Wars. So she got me back into Star Wars. You can blame her. She got in because of Grogu. Okay. She fell in love with Grogu. She's like, oh my God. So here I am. Right. But so her questions made me think some things. So here's the difference. When I was young, we were okay with sitting with nuance. We didn't know Yoda's backstory. We didn't know the stories of Dagobah and all that stuff. And I see these videos where they're like, oh, Dagobah was a created planet and all these different lores and stories. You get what I mean?
The Wikipedia pages for everything.
Oh, let's not even go down that. So I'm trying to explain to the wife that it made it richer for us, that there was only so many of Yoda's species and we didn't know the backstory. We didn't, you know what I mean? You started to create it for yourself. You get what I mean? And I'm seeing people don't appreciate that. They're looking for the backstory instead of going, well, frickin' create it then, bud. Right? You get what I mean?
So every time I watch Star Wars, A New Hope, every time I watch it, I feel like I'm watching it with fresh eyes because there's so much potential as to where that story goes and what comes before it every time, like without fail. I'm like, well, this could go anywhere. You could do so much with this. It is the perfect. Okay, I don't want to use I don't like using that hyperbolic language. Video essayists use it all the time. That ticks me off. I think that film does a really good job. I'd like to backtrack my language. I think the film does a really good job of being almost a sandbox for that which could come later. And despite having a prequel now, which came out 30 something years later, and despite having its sequels even just a couple years later, that story and its trajectory is so open in terms of its interpretation, what you could have done with that world. Like, I think that same mystique and mystery and imagination, or the potential for that imagination, still exists in viewing it. At least I do. At least I have it. So when Obi-Wan says, even today. So when Obi-Wan says, like, I was a Jedi Knight, the same as your father.
Yeah, I love that. But see, that's
like,
how they got it. Alex Giddis.
Alex Giddis. Okay. Also, Alex Giddis is just phoning his performance in those next two films. Like, it's a tragedy. He's just there. I know he just looks so miserable in those robes.
Because it's such a drop, It's such a drop off.
He didn't think he had to be around for the rest of those films. No, but like, and I think Alec Guinness is probably the one that his performance generates all that imagination and wonder as to what came before and what will come in that story.
He had a profound impact on me growing up.
Yeah.
People didn't see that. A lot of people talk about Skywalker and Darth Vader and stuff like that, but Obi-Wan for some reason spoke to me.
What is it? Who's the fool? The fool himself, the one who follows him.
I don't know. I wonder. See, something really hit. So this might be completely crazy. So I did a thought experiment when I was really, really young. I was told that there's two ways to see yourself in the world. You can see yourself as everybody is an actor upon the stage performing for you, or everything is just a stage. So I was sitting there in a cafeteria. Long story short, I personally don't see it that way. I see it as like a big interconnected thing. So how can I explain it? I can't explain. Like, to me, when I saw that, you remember that scene when they became force beings? Do you
Yeah.
know that?
Which part? When they're all ghosts?
Yeah, when they become the Force Ghosts, not the re-edited one where they added Anakin stuff, but like, wasn't it when it was originally released? Wasn't it just Obi-Wan who appeared?
No, it's Obi-Wan, it's Yoda, and then it's oh no, what's his name? Sebastian Shaw, who plays Vader under the mask, gets to be Anakin in
The
that ghost
original
scene.
one?
I'll pull
Yeah,
up an image. I'll pull up an image for context.
yeah. And what did they do? I can't remember who they added after, but it's
Hayden Christensen.
is it okay? So
They put in Anakin from the 3rd episode.
all right, so that kind of shows it. Like, this is the inverse idea. Young talked about this, how we intake a lot of things and we no longer consciously remember it. The example he used is Nietzsche had internalized this shipwreck, this famous shipwreck, and he had written about it. And he had talked to Young and talked to his sister after, and his sister's like, "Oh yeah, I remember reading about it." Blah blah blah. And I think that's what I'm getting at here is I can't remember exactly who was. It was the idea of these force ghosts is what I'm getting at. This idea of that we're connected to something. Yeah, there you go. We're connected to something greater than themselves. And to me, that was a profound kind of idea that I know it sounds kind of irreligious, but it kind of connected me more to the Vedantic idea that Lucas was inspired by for the Star Wars. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, the living force binds us, surrounds us, draws us to one another.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I didn't see it the
Yes.
way other people thought it was cringe, and I was thinking, you know what? Like, which do you see what I'm getting at? Like the hippie Superman, the Gaia thing. Like, I
Yes.
really don't understand how people don't see this connection. That the Force, it's literally Deuteronomy 6, right? Like, to love God with all your spirit, all your strength. You get what I mean?
Mhm.
And the fact that people don't see that connection, like they see the Force as like the will to power other people instead of that which propels. Do you
Well,
see
I
the
think that's
difference?
just because people think it's read it as like superpowers.
Yeah,
Again,
yeah.
but this goes back to this idea of like a very illiterate audience embracing this mythology in a vacuum without any understanding of where it comes from or comes afterwards.
See, you're making Tolkien and C.S. Lewis's argument that there should be, like Harold Bloom, there should be a minimum. What do they call it? Corpus.
Yeah,
That
there should be a minimum corpus as to what like in a cultural context.
yeah, you're
Yeah.
not wrong, dude. You really, because Lucas was part of that, even though he wasn't a terribly well-educated kid.
He read a lot, you
Yeah,
know, and widely.
yeah. Well, here's the thing. I think of what's that great American Samuel Clemens, right? The greatest cure to ignorance is travel, and I think you don't have to travel, right? Just the fact that he learned from people who had a different perspective, right? Real different perspective, not people who pretended to have a different perspective. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. Sorry.
Well,
I
think that's
digress.
no, you're good. Yeah. No, this is what we do. We go down things. But
I'm really bad at it though.
this is what people are here for.
Are they okay? Well, I mean, that's the thing that I think we're missing. Like, I say this to people all the time. Like, I don't know if you know this at what your age is, but when I was young, people made fun of people who read comics after a certain age, and they didn't understand.
Yeah.
Right. There was this expectation, and I don't know if it's still in effect, but there is still a thing. But there was this transitional stage you were expected to take. You went from reading the comics to, and I'll use ElfQuest as an example. So you would go from reading the comics to reading the novelizations, just like Star Wars. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
Do they still do that? And
They do. They
expected
do
you.
still do novelizations. Yep.
No,
I
but
read
they
the
still.
Indiana Jones novelizations
Oh.
from the Scholastic Book Fair as a little kid.
Oh, okay.
As I was viewing them at the same, like I was introduced to those films and those
Yes.
little novels
So
simultaneously.
you know exactly what I mean. Yeah. And I don't know. So what's your thought on that idea? Is that like back then there was a certain amount. I don't know if you guys do that nowadays, but like we used to actually really have great expectations for that stuff. And we'd actually sit down and we'd think about it or talk about it or even play it out?
I mean, I had a little bit of that as a little kid. I think I had a big imagination. I mean, I still do as a kid, and I think about that now. Like we earlier, and you were here. Duh, we're talking about I view the world in narrative
Yeah.
theory, and I liked to put on the role of the characters and things that I read and watched about. And I think I've brought it up here, but I had a lot of. I'm gonna try and connect this one. So I grew up with a lot of medical stuff and like health concerns, and I still live with it now. But
Yeah.
one of the things I really liked, for whatever reason, I was obsessed in like the kid sense and thought it was cool when my favorite characters were battle damaged. Like my favorite like Batman story was when he was like defeated by Bane. Like I thought that was so fascinating and interesting. And all the little battle damaged like action figure variants where they've got like the bandages and they're beat up, and yet they continue to fight. Like Batman builds, like in this cartoon, he gets beat by Bane and he breaks his like body, but then he builds like a mech suit to beat him up, and I thought that was cool. But I was like, well, why did little me like the battle damage characters and these things so much? I'm like, well, how much of it is that which was endured already as a child and finding in some way in these stories a shared experience with these like mythic characters? Like if Batman can be incapacitated and undergo great surgeries and then come back and be able to beat up the bad guy, like the least I could do is, be in the hospital at 4 for 2.5, 3 months and endure that, or I had endured that and then found that endearing in these characters.
That's
And
funny.
so,
Yes.
yeah, I used to like play pretend with friends or even over the phone. My dear, I'll tell this story too. My dear grandmother would sit on the phone with me and play pretend on the phone, and I would come up with these scenarios. Sometimes they were connected to the characters that I liked and stuff, but they were always my own stories. And it was never necessarily like playing with the toys in the moment. It was just that which I visualized in my mind that I was
Okay.
playing out and then describing to her in these like play scenarios. Like I don't know, I've always lived in the Imaginarium, I guess. And I don't know if people do that. So then when like comic books today just feels like a consumer thing
Yeah.
now.
And,
And I
some
I
people
hate
don't
it.
even
I
read them,
hate
I
it.
hear. Right? They
It's
buy
true.
them
And
and bag them.
I hate it. I hate comic book culture actually. And I hate what the MCU, has done to pop, like all of that. Because it's like my students like Invincible, which is like a new one, and they like if you've seen that, which is it's not worth it. That's my take, guys. If any of you like Invincible out there, I don't think Robert Kirkman is cooking with that. But then I try and talk to them about it, and I think it's cool. We consume it, but in my mind, I'm like, can we talk about it? Like, I'd love to talk about these things with you guys, but they don't have the capacity to do that, and I just like comics and these things have been accepted now. But at what cost? Like now you're not being made fun of for liking it, but then you're not also now critically analyzing why it's valuable or important. And now we're just doing it to purchase it because it's popular. Like fake geek culture drives me crazy. And that's why like I'm done with Star Wars too, is because that has also kind of come about too.
There used to be a joke in my generation. I'm a Gen X, if you haven't noticed. There used to be a joke that it became a thing for the fake or not fake, but the fake wearers of band T-shirts. I don't know if you've heard that sort of meme, and I guess it's become that, like someone
Yes.
who's a Star Wars fan, but they're like, how much Star Wars have you actually watched? Like you didn't grow up like me and my buddies. We used to read. I don't know if you ever heard of that book. We just consumed it like it was life. There was a trivia book of Star Wars, and we just loved it because it gave us all the lore. Oh, and this kid wrote it. I don't know if you heard of that book. There was like a 14 or 15-year-old kid wrote this book on Star Wars, and we all loved it for years. But anyway, sorry, go ahead.
I had visual dictionaries as a kid, which were the like DK published. Here's like graphics of the characters with little write-ups about their lore and little details about them. Those were great.
Yeah, I got you. Kind of like early internet version of the fan lore websites.
Yeah, but they were officially published in like hardcover formats.
Yeah, no, that'd be cool.
I had those for Lego books too. Those were my favorite. Was like Lego history and these like hardcovers.
Yeah. No, that's a little bit after my time.
So, yeah,
that's why I'm wondering, because what you're hitting on here is your students have lots. Remember what I said that earlier is we hid this ability to use your imagination, to conceptualize, to think abstractly, to be creative. It was hidden by these kids having all these templates to use in the brain, like compare it to this and move, you know. But I've seen this, and this is what I was talking about with the AI. The AI isn't creative on its own; it's accidentally creative. You get what I mean?
Yes.
And I'm finding these kids are like that. So I'm not arguing these kids are unable, incapable, whatever the word, of being creative, but it's this idea that when you're never creative, when you're just passively accepting everything blindly, you're never going to, like that's a weird quality for you to go, you know what? I'd like to write this Superman story, because most, I think, people, even your age, would be more apt to go out and look at a new superhero that can fit that itch that you have.
Well, what I would do, because I'm not allowed to by copyright necessarily write that Superman, I would just write my own world and do that concept and
create a new
it would
superhero.
It would just be, I mean, it would be allegory. It'd be so thinly veiled to be obviously Superman.
So they couldn't sue you.
As much as I could. I've been working on something for years. I haven't ever truly put it pen to paper, but I've got ideas. But yeah, but I would rather honestly tell that story with Superman, or tell one that was appropriate for Superman in that way. And I have that for Batman too. Like I would tell there's a couple of Batman stories I would want to tell.
And that's why I argued earlier that we need to have the ability to use those, because and this is, okay, to give you a little insight, that's my real bugaboo with people reading Joseph Campbell's Hero with 1,000 Faces, is they get this weird idea that the 1,000 faces are out there, instead of those are what you're supposed to wear. You get what I mean? And instead of embodying these archetypes, they're just pointing at them in the exterior world, and they're never, do you get what I'm getting at here? This like vilification of people who do the navel gazing instead of, well, geez, you can only do better if you really take stock. I don't know, it sounds like a self-help video now, but do you get what I mean, or no?
I think so. If you want to clarify that. So if the faces are not out there, the faces are not out there. We're not trying to seek a new face for something, but like we're the ones who put it on and kind of develop it, right?
It's kind of the superposition that you do look into the world, right? Because you can only become your optimum best in congress with others, right? Because hopefully you have that grasshopper mentor mentee relationship. So yes, there is a little bit of you'll see someone out there, like say Ulysses, right? Is an archetype that we have, this hero. But what we're forgetting is we're not just meant to see these archetypes, these heroes in the world. We're meant to try to embody them. Remember I mentioned that earlier? That when we put on a face that we think is Ulysses, that, oh, it makes us Ulysses. But what we're forgetting is we're not actually Ulysses. So we're just trying to embody that hero with the mask. But when we land, right, hopefully we recognize that, hey, you know, we weren't Ulysses, but we were using it as a fake it till you make it. And when we land, we're hopefully the most real version of ourselves we can be. Does that make sense? Does that explain?
Yes. So little kids, and I did this as a little kid. So I work right now with some summer camp stuff. And so I have kids from little as like 6 to about 12, and we go on trips.
Oh, geez.
Right? Oh yeah, I get to drive a van.
I can imagine.
But the other day, the kids were sitting in the back seat, and they didn't have anything to do because they don't get to have their phones when they go to our camp. And they were sitting in the back seat and playing. They were playing pretend, and they said, "Well, I'm this guy, but I'm the super special version. Well, I'm this guy, but I'm this." But they don't really change their character. They're just them, and they just take on the name of the character. And I'm sure their mind, they play that, and that's what I did as a little kid. Well, I'm Batman, but I'm like Batman with like the cool armor that I saw in the one toy. But they don't necessarily. Maybe, and I did a couple key traits maybe to like performative put it on, but they don't really change their character when they play these roles, when they play outside together.
Dude. Yep.
But they are them. Yes, in their minds they are them, and I was in my mind Batman when I would play outside on the playground.
Did you make a funny voice?
No, you didn't. We played, and like you just were you, but you were this character.
Batman. You didn't do that Batman voice.
No, and I don't remember doing that as a little kid.
No?
And I think, and I don't, my kids don't do that. My kids, I'm such a.
You could say, I know what you mean by that. Don't be silly like that.
It's fun. No, it still happens. I left education and I'm still working with the youth.
The only reason why I mention it is because I think the That's what people miss about education, right? Because that's how, and learning language, like we keep kids constantly at the edge of their fluency, the edge of their competency, right? To always be challenging them. And that's what was my joke is this idea of people get this wrong. Like, it's not actually hard to learn another language. The thing that's hard is most of us are lazy with our mouth, so we don't really try to enunciate. And what I try to, if you ever see the actors, they make the funny faces and they make the fun. Yeah. Well, if you do that learning another language, especially one that's different from what you've learned, right? So the phonemes are completely different. If you actually make the funny faces and not worry about saying stupid stuff or making funny faces, funny voices, sorry, it actually expands the mind. That's what's crazy about it. And so I argue that that whole play that the kids do, the playing at different characters, the different voices, all that sort of stuff. I think that's actually how we develop who we are. You get what I mean? And so the kid being on what Revelation would call lukewarm status, you get what I mean? I think they get lukewarm results. Do you follow what I mean on that?
If they're not playing pretend and playing the roles of characters and in figures, which they're not because they don't have the access to these and aren't reading,
half-ass, yeah,
they become what a lot of the youth are, and they're not optimal. They are lukewarm.
They're not
versus
whole.
those. They're not. That's a good word. They're not whole, and you see that, and it's really sad. And there's very little in whatever. There's very little in whatever roles that I've played, even now. Like, there's not much you can do.
What do you mean? As a teacher?
Yeah, as a teacher in the public space, you can only do so much to kind of curb that. Or I found that.
Can I reflect something to you and you just get your opinion on it? So what I tell someone in this situation who can, I think, reasonably throw their hands up and say, well, there's so much that needs fixing. So what I give them is, I believe that your average education, whatever you want to call it, protocol, system, what do you guys call it? Your syllabi, whatever you guys call it. It's usually directed at a tiny, tiny little majority. Because what I say is, if you look at any average class, you got the remedial kids on one side, maybe about 15%, 10%, and you got the gifted kids, 10 or 15%. I don't mean to, but anyway, long story short, what I believe is you're actually teaching to a small portion of the inside class there. What's wrong there, boss?
I had to just answer a message real quick. I'm good.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I don't mean to keep you. That's why I'm just.
No, you're good. We can figure out how to land the plane if you want to.
No, it's just not. It's just I was just mentioning that as a teacher, what I've found is they throw their hands up and say that, hey, we can't do anything about it because there's so much to work. But when I mention this to teachers, none of them even see the potential usually in it. I argue you have your gifted students who are not engaged because the material is not challenging enough. You got your remedial students who are not engaged because the material is too challenging, right? You know how that works, right? But within the middle cabal, you have the same dynamic going on. You have one group that is, coasting because it's, a little challenging, but not challenging enough that, but then you got the other group in that center cabal that are, they have to do the homework and they have to put in the work to get the marks. They're getting the marks.
Yes.
So I argue what we need to be doing is taking those gifted students, having them help the remedial students.
Yes.
Okay. So the gifted students are getting the engagement because they're teaching. And I argue the best way to learn something is to learn how to teach it. Right? And the remedial students are getting help, and do the same with the inner cabal, right? Find the kids that are coasting, give them a little bit of more challenge by helping the other kids, because I argue by learning how to teach, particularly to different minds, or the inverse, allowing different minds to teach gives you a window into a new way of seeing the world. Do you get what I mean?
Yes. Yeah. There are attempts by district programs and kind of put together things to allow students to teach one another. Are they always successful? I don't know. And I like that strategy. I like that suggestion. One of the things, if we want to talk about play again, what is one thing that, and I've already noticed it again, what are some things that I guess girls specifically play? They play parent. They play caretaker.
Yeah.
They play teacher, right? And put on that role in some way as well. And so kids have that natural want to, in some way, to
Role playing, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
embody the
Nothing to turn you
roles
away.
that they are under, and to
Uh-huh.
let them. I think that'd be. I don't know how you would do it, and because I was in a
Mhm.
rough Title I, no funding school, but and with limited resources. But like, I wonder what it'd be really cool to allow play the role of the teacher, like,
Mhm.
and not just to like, oh, I'm in charge, you guys can do whatever you want, because that's usually the
Well,
so
I
like
actually
kids
have
would
a
act
solution
like
to that, believe it or
with that.
not. I'm not arguing that the student becomes the teacher. What I'm actually arguing for is the Tibetan Geshe, or there's other examples of this. It's the idea of pairing the students off. Do you get what I'm getting at by that?
Yes, yeah, and we've
Yeah.
done that before. There's some space for that. Grouping, you got to be really intentional about.
Mhm.
There's some modes in which you group one of the highest achievers with two mid-range achievers, kind of like, as you said, kind of the common lot, if you want to say that. That's a bad word for it, but and then kind of
Okay,
the
we'll
lowest
worry about the
percentile
verbiage
achiever.
later.
The
Mm.
struggle, even with that, though, in the environments that I've worked in, is that nobody is on the highest achieving level, or the very few are, or they're
Oh,
consolidated to one group already.
okay. Do they
And
separate them already? Is that why?
yeah, so you have your honors programs,
Yeah.
your advanced
I think
placement
that's a mistake.
programs.
Yeah. And then within the remedial, and here's the reason why I think you should open. I don't know if you agree already, but I think within the remedial group, you actually have high functioning dyslexics. You have actually
Yes.
like me, the INTP. So
Mhm.
because of the way I interact, I just come across as, just the most disagreeable person. And to a teacher, right, that is very challenging. So of course I would get pigeonholed. And honestly, that's the thing that I learned is like I developed a negative relationship with education, as many kids do, right? Kids that struggle to learn grow up to be adults who don't learn. Kids that
Yep.
struggle to read grow up to be adults that don't read. Right. So that's well, anyways, that's the idea that we're trying to get at here is
Yes.
we got to teach. And anyways, here's the real thing. The problem isn't the kids,
Mm-mm.
right? So what age you're dealing with Gen Alpha, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Late Gen Z, early, yeah, and then Gen Alpha. Yeah.
I actually argue that it's actually what they call the Xenials, all the way down, to the Gen Alphas, right? Particularly the millennials. And I'm not being insulting in this way. What I'm saying is the late Gen X didn't value education the way you get what I mean? And if you
Mhm.
don't, if you have a parent and a grandparent that don't value education, because believe it or not, they did a study of this, that the only group of people still reading to their children, believe it or not, were actually a group that most people would have thought that don't even really read. You get what I
Really?
mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's the real truth is that when you have 3 generations of parents that don't read to their kids, are you surprised that kids don't read? You get what I mean?
Mhm.
So I personally think that part of the problem is, well, how do you get generations to read that aren't reading when they're adults, right?
Yeah. I don't know. That's kind of the big thing. I have a dear friend and former coworker who's trying to get into that world of literacy and figuring out how to fix that. Here's one. I think actually part of what has helped me was my father, who is Gen X.
Okay.
Read to me growing up. He read early kids books and stuff, and silly Dr. Seuss books, and did all the voices. But then he read chapter books and novels as well. Up to a certain age, so it's probably even up to about like 8, 9, and then I was reading on my own, and so that want to read was cultivated.
Yeah. I think that's a big mistake.
And
The
then
formal.
I'll
Yeah,
go,
go ahead. Sure.
and I'll give you another one on the idea of like kind of the students you're dealing with.
Mhm.
Intellect and capacity to do certain things is expressed very differently. I had a student who really struggled with taking that which they thought and perceived to paper. They could not make things manifest, or could not put them in flesh per se on the page. They really struggled with that. And yet they were the one of the most sarcastic, observant, witty, sassy, much to my behest, and it was always at my expense, or like the system's expense, like always, like constantly making some sort of
Their
observation
verbal
or
IQ was
perception.
exceptional, but their written IQ was
Yeah. They were
okay.
very perceptive. They were aware of the BS and
Mhm.
certain things, and they had very special interests, and they were articulate about that, and they were
Mm.
immersed in that, and I really appreciated that.
Yeah.
but in
That's
terms
the
of the
type of
actual kind of
intelligence.
formal learning stuff, they hated it. They hated me sometimes for making them do it too. Like there were days where like, I hate you. You're the worst teacher ever. How dare you make us do these things?
Yeah. And see what I mean? Like, that's what I was trying to get at, where it sounded like it was just me complaining. But no, I mean, it's so often that teachers will teach to the easy students instead of the hard ones. And if a student like the one you just talked about, like most teachers wouldn't lean in, to get that kid engaged. They'd actually just let him tune out. You get what I mean?
That's all I did was teach was the most difficult to reach ones. That's all
Yeah.
I did
Well,
for
you're
3.5
rare.
years.
And both of you are rare, actually, having parents to read to you, because even the foremost researcher on reading says that most parents are in a rush to, if they at all, read to their kid, but they're in a rush to get the kid to read to themselves. You know what I mean?
I
Which
don't
is
know.
sad.
There's something really fun. Well, there's that whole participatory thing again of
I actually think it's
shared reading.
completely different. I believe, here's my completely hot take. I believe physical books are meant to be seen as a backup, right? Sure, some people might read a book, but I think a physical book should be something we keep as a backup, kind of like a data backup of media, physical media. I think technically, historically, how long have we been reading books?
Not as long as we've been passing stuff down orally.
No. And so I argue, and the leading researcher says this, that we're natural born storytellers, listeners, but we have to add on reading like it's a subroutine to our programming. And yet we don't realize, oh, crap. Why aren't we giving kids audiobooks? Why aren't we giving kids, I argue, give kids ebooks, right? Because they can listen to it if they want, or you can get better font. Maybe there's a disconnect with the
accessibility.
font. Yeah, exactly. But that's a limit. We won't even go into that, how poorly most companies look at accessibility. But yeah, I mean, my argument is that the reason why we have this bottleneck, this disconnect, is because we have a couple hundred years of teachers, of academics that are these weirdos that learn well by reading this really obscure way. Do you follow what I'm getting at? So they've actually ostracized the regular people who maybe prefer listening to their stories. You get what I mean? So we've kind of flipped that. And I'm not arguing we need to put these people that like Mark, these ebook weirdos. I'm not saying we need to, put them in jail with the physical book people. I'm saying we should give our kids all of them, the ebooks, the physical books, and the audiobooks, and let them figure out. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
What works best for them. Yeah. I think ebooks are great too, because you can do so much stuff with them. Yeah. Better than physical books.
How do you want to land the plane? Final thoughts for me.
Nothing really. I like that you don't mind being all over the place, right? But I personally think
a treat.
Literally the disconnect we're dealing with is we need to figure out how to think. So honestly, even if you spend 2 hours yammering on about stupid shit, as long as you were figuring out how to think, I think it's a worthwhile effort. You know what I mean? I think that's why we used to get together and chit chat. Yeah, same thing though. Ebooks, audiobooks, I think they're both grand.
Mark S. retracts his statement. He says that audiobooks are good, not ebooks.
Ebooks are good too, because I know a few apps that you can turn them into an audiobook. So that's why I love them. You can't do that with a physical book, at least not easily. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm done. Sorry. I'm a chatty M.
He says, Al, I'm glad you had a good time. You just shotgun for young Henry for an hour.
I am sorry, guys.
No, this was
what I like.
This is the kind of thing. This is what I'm always like hoping for to show up, like to happen on the live stream. I like new face. I haven't met you before now. I think we've had like probably one of the best conversations I've had on my channel in a hot minute. I think this was great. So,
well, what I like in it too is who was it? I think it was actually Paul Vanderklay. He was doing an interview with someone recently. They were talking about how being able to do a monologue is rare. And I kind of chuckled to myself because I've only recently realized why I'm such a chatty guy. I listen to audiobooks, right? So I listen all day long, almost, not, I'm exaggerating, but I listen to probably more in a month than most people listen to in a couple years. You get what I mean? And I think that's what our kids are missing. It's that inner voice. It's thinking. It's rolling stuff around. What do you call that? What do they also call that? Rumination.
metacognition.
Well, rumination. I'm not fancy like y'all with your words.
That's the teaching language right there.
Yeah, I'm just busting your balls. But yeah, honestly, and I'll give you a little insight. I call it polymodal learning. Right? I stole it from this idea. You ever heard of dual coding? Did they teach you about dual coding?
Mm-mm.
You should show and tell. It goes back to the 70s.
Oh,
Great
yes.
Canadian named Pivio came up with this idea called dual coding. Well, if you modernize that, which not many educators have, it should be more of a polymodal coding. Right? You get what I mean? So it's not just show and tell, feel. So I argue, like for me, I'll give you an example. When I was in sales and finance, the best conversations I had was walking around talking on the phone. Right. So I guess I'm wrong. It wasn't just audiobooks. I also spent a career in finance, which is a lot of talking. You know what I mean? But walking around and talking. But how many students do you allow? Yeah, I know I should land the plane. I'm sorry. How many, what do you call it? How many students are allowed to, stand up and walk around and give their speech or read their poem? You get what I mean?
Yep.
So I'm arguing not just let them listen and follow along visually, but I argue maybe even do what I do is I listen to my audiobooks on a walk. And I think that makes you work even harder. So landing the plane.
Al, thanks for hopping on.
That was a pleasure.
Hope to see you around.
Yeah, I'll talk to you soon, bud. Cheers.
All right. See ya. All right. Al, thank you for coming on. That was a treat. That was a really good conversation. I had a lot of fun. I learned I don't know, I learned a lot. I really that was really cool. Yep, plane has been landed. All right. Final thoughts, comments from the chat. Any last minute surprises that I need to be aware of? Jumping in, going once, going twice. Make sure to smash that subscribe button, hit the bell for notifications if you enjoyed this, so you're always up to date on whenever I spontaneously go live. I had the day off and I said, you know what, I'd like to do some live streaming. And so perhaps maybe I'll make this a more regular. I really would like to make this a regular occurrence. My life has been kind of in transit, to say the least. Yeah. And so I think part of maybe what I'd like to do would be to do a little bit more work here in the corner. I think I'd like to work on some of those topics. All right, I got one more guest really quickly. Al, thank you for hopping on. I'm gonna make this one really. I'm gonna try to make this quick. I gotta go to bed. I have to see this person tomorrow. So hi, welcome back to the show in your chair. You're all situated. So
Hi. Hold on. I'm like tripping out. I got both open.
you want to fix your bike's a little soft.
Maybe if I would bring it down, because
That
I
would
totally
work.
was not.
There you go. There you go.
All right, I'm gonna close out the YouTube.
Yeah, you don't want to listen to yourself talk at the same time.
No, don't talk. Don't. I hate hearing myself.
Hi, Chad.
Oh, hi, Chad.
So, all right. Well, this is that person I was talking about in the Louisiana ingression with Neil that I was all excited about. So this is
the one that was lurking in the chat, barely talking.
Yeah. All right. So, what do you want to say as we land the plane? We close this now. Close this out. Al, you are totally fine. You are totally fine. I do not apologize.
I was not waiting. I just whenever you hopped off, I'm like, whenever he said last minute surprises, I said bink.
No, you're good, Al.
Join
I
studio.
want you to come back, Al. Please stick around. Please stick around. I would love to have another conversation with you. So, all right, there you go. There's the big reveal. Matt, see, that's not true. That's not true. I'm gonna see her tomorrow.
You can't just misquote.
All right.
Lies and slander. We were just lurking in the chat.
What are your impressions of what I do here on the corner?
Well,
there you go.
I'm new to the whole thing, so it's I've not really gotten much interaction and seen, your stuff. I mean, I joined the last couple live streams. I joined live for the Louisiana aggression, and then I did watch the one that you did about the quest for the Forbidden Techne or whatever. I watched that one when I first got introduced. And but yeah, I mean, it definitely seems like a good community, and you definitely seem happy here. And there's been a lot of thought-provoking conversations that I've heard, whether it be live or over the video, and like even just listening to this live stream now because I've been here listening. There's been a lot of like things that like I have, to quote Al, ruminate on. So it's pretty chill.
It's pretty chill. I try to keep it chill on this channel.
Mm.
So corner within a corner within a corner, if you will.
Exactly. We're the back corner with the little we're the back corner with the little bookshelf blocking it.
That's on me. I should have known or looked to the format of a sub with the algo. No worries. Yeah, I'm not very good at doing YouTube. I can't, like, I'm not a social media marketing guy, and so I just jump on, and if the live notification comes up, it comes up. So no worries, Al.
Listen, I'm gonna make a confession. I only just today turned on his notifications, so.
Ooh. Enjoy your time, Chad. Enjoy the company of Mrs. Albin.
I was about to say, have fun with the missus.
We're gonna land the plane here any second anyway, so I don't know.
Yeah, I just wanted to hop in, and I hopped on earlier. It was an accident. Yes, I am the same person.
Is this
Boom,
a press?
surprise?
Is this a new thing for the corner? I'm gonna ask that question later. So, all right. I'll think I'm gonna.
Let's land this plane.
We have to be careful with notifications. Yes, it will all be noise. You have to be selective about what you subscribe to. I will show up occasionally. I'm like a nice drink that you think of that comes to your mind at like a restaurant. You go, oh yeah, I could go for one of those now. And you have it and you go, that was great. I don't need it all the time.
Exactly. Happens once in a while.
Who knows? If we make these live streams more often, we'll see. So, all right. I'm going to land the plane. Thanks for hopping on, love. All right. I'm going to play some branding.
Bye, guys.
Y'all out there, have a good night. I'll see you tomorrow. All right. Bye, everybody. Good night. God bless.